Thanks for joining us tonight on another episode of The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters, and I'm your host once again for another fabulous little half hour where we are going to talk all things motorsports, because it's now May, and that means that the Indianapolis 500 is just weeks away. But that's not all. We had a packed weekend of racing to kick off the month. We had NASCAR out in Texas, Formula One returning for the first time in about a month with the Miami Grand Prix. We had a last lap pass for the GTP win during the IMSA race this past weekend at Laguna Seca. And then we had Formula E out there in Berlin at the Tempelhof Airport circuit, another fantastic race for Formula E out there at that fan favorite racetrack. So without further ado, let's go ahead now and jump right on in to some of the news and notes of the week. There's no shortage of it. And as we begin in the world of Formula One, this is the biggest shock out of everything. I think nobody saw this coming, but FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem says that V8 engines are coming back to Formula One by either 2030 or 2031. Now, Sulayem told Reuters in Miami that in 2031, the FIA will have the discretion to introduce new power units. Now, currently, in order to introduce a new type of engine by 2030, there would need to be a supermajority from 4 of the 6 power units manufacturers. That's Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, Honda, Audi, and soon-to-be General Motors. However, if a supermajority cannot be achieved, the FIA will be able to unilaterally make that switch for 2031. Now, Sulayem said that these proposed V8 engines will have very minor electrification, so there will still be some sort of hybrid component with these new proposed engines. But here we have the president of the FIA coming in and saying we are going back to V8 engines, whether these power unit suppliers want to or not. So that is something that we will have to keep monitoring as we go forward. This is a very big news. Ben Sulayem coming in and basically making the call that Formula One will be going back to V8 engines. And of course, I don't doubt that this might be challenged in some way by either the teams or the manufacturers themselves. But either way, this is going to be a story that we're going to have to watch what appears to be for at least the next 5 years. So we'll put a pin in it for now, but very surprising news to hear over the past weekend. Meanwhile, speaking of Formula One power units, the 2027 power unit rules are expected to be decided within the next 2 weeks. Now, changes are on the table to include a 60-40 power split between engine and electric. So 60% internal combustion engine, 40% electric power. Now, that is a change from the current 50-50 split that we see with the current regulations. Now, again, as we just talked about, a supermajority is needed to pass these new regulations. And one of the biggest factors that could prevent a change is how much time is going to be needed in order to develop these brand new power units for next year. So we will keep an eye on that and bring you the latest updates as soon as we know what's going on. So don't miss a single episode of The Racing Report so that you don't get out of the loop by any means. Now, on that note, let's go ahead and move into the world of IndyCar, because as I said at the top of the show, the month of May is now in full swing. We've got the IndyCar Grand Prix coming up this weekend on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, and there'll be a slight change to how race officiating works. And not really race officiating, but more so how one specific previously illegal thing is now legal. So we talked about a couple weeks ago last week how IndyCar realized, hey, there was a glitch in the push-to-pass software, and it allowed for drivers to push it on the restarts at Long Beach, that one restart that we had at Long Beach. Well, now IndyCar has come out and said, well, we're just going to change the rules. We're going to get rid of this, you can't use push-to-pass on restarts. Now you can. So beginning this weekend at the Soncio Grand Prix at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, you will see push to pass be enabled on the initial start and any subsequent restarts. So that might make for an interesting dynamic, though I'm not exactly certain how much that's going to change things, since we saw how it worked at Long Beach when they didn't even know it was happening. The drivers didn't even know it was happening. Now let's see what happens when the drivers do know what's happening. But either way, I'm still kind of like, is this going to change much? Is this going to make restarts all that more exciting? Or is it maybe going to be negligible. I don't know. We'll see. We've got a race this weekend. We'll find out. On that note, Racer is now reporting that IndyCar plans to start on-track testing of its new Dallara IR28 chassis either in July or August. So apparently, according to Racer.com, that is expected to happen between the Nashville race and the Portland race. At some point, they are going to try and get these new chassis on track to, at the very least, see how they perform and see how that work is going and how that development is going. So something to look forward to possibly later this year is we might get a first look at the new IndyCar chassis that's set to debut in a couple of years' time. Now on the final IndyCar note of the week, reigning Formula 2 champion Leonardo Fornaroli is expected to participate in an IndyCar test with Arrow McLaren during the offseason. Now, however, team principal Tony Kanaan did tell Racer that Fornaroli's priority is still Formula 1 and that he's really only testing because the rules say that Enzo Fittipaldi, who has been testing for the team, has reached his testing limit. Now, it is notable to also include there that both Christian Lundgaard and Nolan Siegel are in the final years of their current contracts with Arrow McLaren. So something could develop, but again, Fornaroli is still focused on getting to Formula 1, but it is still important to note that by September, he will be likely participating in a IndyCar test with Arrow McLaren. And so now, as we look ahead to the month of May, lots to go on, and I'm sure we'll be here to bring you updates all month long as the Indy 500 gets closer and closer. You won't want to miss a single Racing Report episode all this month. We're going to have all kinds of Indy 500 content you won't want to miss. But that is now time to segue into the final piece of open wheel news for the segment, and that is in the world of Formula E. We got a pretty big announcement last weekend that Lucas di Grassi, a former champion and 13-time race winner in Formula E, will retire at the end of the season. He's going to retire entirely from professional motor racing, but he has been in Formula E since its inception all the way back in 2014. In fact, he was one of the first drivers to help out with testing the car. There's a great picture out there of him and then CEO Alejandro Agag with a prototype Formula E car that looks nothing like what actually hit the track during their first season and nothing like what's hit the track since. A very cool picture. I saw that. But congratulations to Lucas di Grassi on a fantastic career in Formula E. He will definitely be missed. But the last piece of Formula E news that we've got to talk about is quite interesting, I think. Motorsport.com is reporting that DS Penske is, quote, pushing ahead to develop its own powertrain as it plans to lose DS as a partner at the end of the season. So we've reported this, that DS is leaving Penske. They're basically making their own team. It's going to be, but it's kind of a rebrand, not a rebrand. It's not really a rebrand, but Stellantis is pushing the Opel brand over the DS brand, but DS is pulling out. So DS Penske is now basically thinking, well, how are we going to continue in this championship? Well, the answer to that is yes, they are planning on continuing the championship. It's just the question now becomes, what does that look like? Do they develop their own powertrain? Do they become a customer team? What exactly do they do? Both options are up in the air, but it does appear that they're moving forward with potentially having to develop their own powertrain for this new Gen 4 chassis that's set to debut next year. So this is something that we'll keep in mind and keep in touch with because, like I said, this is Jay Penske's team, Roger Penske's son. Roger Penske has no involvement in Formula E. Jay Penske is who runs the DS Penske team, formerly known as Dragon Racing, which previously competed in the IndyCar series. But on that note, let's go ahead here and take our first break of the show. And when we come back, we've got some big news out of the world of IMSA for its most recent GTP winner. And we've also got plenty of driver announcements in the world of NASCAR. So all of that is coming up right after these messages. More Racing Report coming up. Don't go anywhere. And And welcome back to the Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. Thanks again so much for sticking with us through that break. We've got quite a bit of news to talk about when it comes to fendered car racing. Not any supercars news really to report on. There on a little bit of a break. They still have a couple of weeks before they come back at Tasmania. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about some news out of the world of IMSA. Now, fresh off his last lap pass for the win at Laguna Seca, Porsche has announced that Laurin Heinrich will take over the full-time ride next year, while Lawrence Vanthoor will reduce his schedule to only endurance rounds. Now, Vanthoor has said that he's actually got a deal that could see him in some WEC races, but this is a big deal for Laurin Heinrich because remember, he is in a Porsche ride, but this is not the Penske Porsche ride that you might be familiar with. This is a different Porsche ride entirely. This is actually the JDC Miller Motorsports machine. So this is some big news for Laurin Heinrich, especially since it comes right off a thrilling pass for the win in GTP this past weekend at Laguna Seca. And if you haven't watched this, it was shades of Alex Zanardi, who unfortunately we lost on Friday. Alex Zanardi passed away at the age of 59. It's definitely been something that's kind of been messing me up personally. Zanardi was honestly a legend, to say the least. Legend doesn't even begin to describe the kind of person that Alex Zanardi was. But an incredible move by Heinrich, basically. It wasn't done in the corkscrew, of course. I think everybody, myself included, was expecting maybe a last lap pass at Laguna Seca to come in the corkscrew. But no, it did not come in the corkscrew. It came in the first sector of the race, of the lap. But either way, a great way to celebrate a GTP victory for Laurin Heinrich. Congratulations to him. Now, we talked about not having a ton of supercars news to talk about, but this piece, next IMSA news, does include a supercars driver. Reigning supercars champion Chaz Mostert will join Vassar Sullivan in the upcoming IMSA race on the streets of Detroit, coming up here at the end of the month. He'll be paired alongside Aaron Telitz in the number 15 Lexus RCF GT3. So congratulations to Chazzy. He's going to get an opportunity to go out and race in the States in a Lexus sports car. Congratulations to him. That should be fun. Now let's go ahead and move on into the world of NASCAR. No shortage of news to talk about this week. First and foremost, we've got some update to the Chris Gabehart / Joe Gibbs Racing ongoing lawsuit. The judge overseeing that lawsuit has set a trial date for January. So it looks like Gibbs was hoping for maybe a little bit of an earlier trial date. I think they were aiming for something like in November, whereas Gabehart and Spire Motorsports were hoping for something a little bit later. So January 2027 is the trial date so far for when we will find out in court what is going on between Spire Motorsports, Chris Gabehart, and Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe Gibbs Racing has been accusing and filing a decent amount of amendments and filing new things with the courts, seeming what feels like every week, alleging things about Spire and Chris Gabehart. They did not like something that Spire CEO Jeff Dickerson said, and they took issue with that, raised it with the courts. It's going to be interesting to see if this ends up getting kind of nasty or if this ends up settling before they reach a trial. It seems like Gibbs wants to go to trial. Maybe they don't, maybe they do. But either way, so far, unless there is a settlement reached, this is going to trial in January. We'll keep you updated, obviously, on future Racing Report episodes as soon as we know what's going on in that trial. But now, outside of the courtroom and now back onto the racetrack, Team Penske and Ryan Blaney have announced that they have come to a deal to have a long-term contract extension for Ryan Blaney. Now, that also includes a contract extension with his sponsor, Menards. So that is good news for Ryan Blaney fans. He's sticking around with Team Penske for the foreseeable future. And Menards is also sticking around with Team Penske for the foreseeable future. Now on to some of the news out of the lower divisions. DGM Racing says that, quote, due to a newly onboarded partner failing to meet its contractual obligations, Josh Williams will not race the number 92 Chevrolet this weekend at Watkins Glen. Instead, NASCAR Canada Series driver Alex Gannett will drive the car on Saturday in place of Williams. It is believed that Williams will likely return to the car for the next race, but I'm not sure. Honestly, I can't be too sure. We'll see, but that is what's going on now. That's why you won't see Josh Williams in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race this weekend at Watkins Glen. In the Truck Series, this was a fairly big announcement that came down on Wednesday. Travis Pastrana is coming back to NASCAR in 2 weeks' time when the Truck Series races at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. He will drive the Colleague Racing Ram free agent truck. That's the number 25 Ram entry for Colleague Racing. Great to see Travis back. I'll be curious to see how he does. AJ Allmendinger is going to be in that truck this weekend at Watkins Glen, so maybe AJ could get the first win for Ram in the Truck Series in quite some time. But ultimately, that program has kind of been struggling, so maybe AJ could breathe some life into it. Maybe Travis Pastrana can bring some more excitement into that group as well. Maybe help them get better as the season goes on. Also in Truck Series news, Frankie Muniz has announced that he will miss this weekend's race at Watkins Glen in the Truck Series because he's got a prior commitment. So he is third in the championship in GT4 America, and as a result, he's like, I think I'm going to stick with that for a while. I'm third in the championship. I'm going to race that. So they've the Rayum Brothers Racing has replaced him for this weekend only at Watkins Glen with Stephen Malozzi. So if you remember him, he's the guy who worked at Outback, and he's going to law school at Temple, and he's going to run that truck this weekend at Watkins Glen, so that should be a great opportunity for him as Frankie Muniz chases a championship, potential championship in GT4 America. More Truck Series news. This is great news. We talked about at Kansas a couple of weeks ago, Destiny Spurlock getting her top 10 finish at Kansas in the ARCA race. Well, now she's going to make her Craftsman Truck Series debut on Friday in the truck race as well at Watkins Glen. She's going to drive for MBM Motorsports Garage 66 in the number 69 truck coming up this weekend. Great opportunity for her, very much hoping for the best for her. And now, speaking of, that's not the only woman who will be on the grid this weekend in the truck race at Watkins Glen. Toni Breidinger is returning to the cockpit. She was in the race last weekend at Texas as well, but she's going to be piloting a brand new McAnally-Hilgeman development ride. So McAnally-Hilgeman is coming out with the truck number 20, and that's going to be a development ride for them. They're going to have about 5 cars across, including this development car that's not going to race full-time, but it's going to race a handful of select races. Now, Breidinger is going to be in this car at Watkins Glen, or excuse me, in that truck at Watkins Glen, but then Mason Massey is going to make select starts later on this season in that same truck, beginning at Richmond. So some big news there in the world of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. It should be a very fun event coming up this weekend at Watkins Glen, and we look forward to talking about it with you in next week's Racing Report. But on that note, speaking of we got to talk about stuff, let's go ahead now and take our second break of the show, because when we come back, we're going to break down all of the races that happened this past weekend, everything that happened in NASCAR, everything that happened in Formula One, everything that happened in Formula E, and so on and so forth. We're going to talk about it, including the IMSA race as well. Lots to talk about, and we're going to preview the upcoming races from this weekend. A good amount of stuff going on you won't want to miss. So more Racing Report coming up after these messages. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. Thanks again so much for sticking with us through that break. We got a lot to talk about from the world of racing, from everything that happened in the past week. It feels like it was a long weekend just because of how much racing that was going on. But obviously, the NASCAR series was in Texas. We had the Cup Series. That was actually a very fun and enjoyable race, though we did have a couple of controversies there. Ryan Preece was penalized for intentional contact with Ty Gibbs. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch was not penalized for seemingly dooring John Hunter Nemechek, causing him to wreck in the closing laps of that race. But Chase Elliott was the one who ended up getting the victory. And honestly, it was a fairly entertaining race at Texas, and the crowd shone out. It was probably one of the best weekends at Texas. Now, they said that the crowd was sold out. There's maybe some Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Either way, it doesn't matter. The stands looked full, and that's what's important. And I think they got treated to a really, really fun race. You had a lot of different strategies going on there. Tires definitely mattered. I thought it was really fun. And you know what else was also fun? The O'Reilly Series race and the truck race. Some fantastic three-wide racing a whole week, all race long, basically. We saw these guys running 2-wide, 3-wide, running right up next to each other, getting guys loose. It looked like an old school style of race. It was a lot of fun. Now, Kyle Larson bested Justin Allgaier in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race, while Carson Hocevar, essentially, for a very brief time, held the two most recent victories in the NASCAR's top 3 series. So he won the truck race less than a week after winning his maiden Cup Series race at Talladega. So that was a big deal. The crowd, you could tell the crowd was thrilled with how Hocevar pulled that thing off on Friday night at the truck race. Overall, I loved that. That was a great, thrilling weekend at Texas. I thought it was really good. And again, like I said, Chase Elliott is now the second NASCAR Cup Series driver to win multiple races this year. He joins Tyler Reddick as the only other driver to win multiple races so far in 2025. Be interested to see who becomes the third driver to win multiple races in 2025. There could be many, could be a number of people, but either way, we'll see what happens coming up this weekend at Watkins Glen. That could be SVG, who knows? And let's go ahead now and talk about the Formula One race in Miami. That one was interesting. So we talked about last week. I said that the race in last week's racing report, I said the race was going to start at 4:10, well, or 4 o'clock in the evening, and that was not true because there was a lot of rain rolling through Miami, some thunderstorms, and so the FIA made the decision on Saturday they were going to move the race up from 4 o'clock, they were going to run it at 1 o'clock, and that proved to honestly be a much better idea because as soon as the race was over, rain came in and washed everything out, and there was some thunder and lightning, and just not something you want to have a large crowd of people around. So, but either way, we had a sprint race that weekend as well, and Lando Norris ended up scoring the win in the sprint race, but it was Kimi Antonelli scoring his third straight Grand Prix victory in the race on Sunday. Now, he's won from the pole all 3 times. So not only did he get 3 straight poles, he's also won 3 straight races. Very impressive, and already people are starting to talk about what are his odds as a championship favorite. Could he potentially win the championship? There's only been 4 races. Antonelli has won 3 of them, but there's only been 4 races. It's a small sample size. So I think there's a lot of hesitation to maybe go right in and say Antonelli's a championship favorite. Antonelli's a championship favorite. I think had we run races in April, maybe we'd have a little bit of a better idea. But I think right now it's just too soon to tell. But it does seem like Antonelli has the leg up over George Russell after the most recent 3 races. And on that note, it was honestly also a thrilling finish between 4th and 7th. Just a lot of passing going on there. Charles Leclerc having a disastrous final couple of laps where he went off the track, hit the wall, and then proceeded to continue to limp around, got a penalty for, I guess, leaving the track for no explainable reason. That's what the FIA at least penalized him for, or so they said they penalized him for. But overall, it was just a very interesting Miami Grand Prix. And in Formula 2, Colton Herta actually scored points again in the feature race. But the winners of Formula 2, Nikola Solov won the sprint race, while Gabriel Mini won the feature race. Congratulations to both of them. Formula E was in Berlin, and again, it was another fantastically fun race. Lots of action going on all over the track. Nico Muller won race 1, while Mitch Evans, who we talked about last week, is departing Jaguar at the end of the season. He picked up race 2 victory coming this past weekend at Berlin. In IMSA, we talked about the thrilling GTP finish earlier with Lauren Heinrich getting that victory. But in GTD Pro, Ford Racing won in that class, while in GTD, it was Wayne Taylor Racing's Lamborghini that took the class win in GTD. Now let's go ahead and look ahead to the race is coming up this weekend. No shortage of it. Again, we've got the ARCA Series, the Truck Series, both racing on Friday at Watkins Glen before the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series races on Saturday, with the Cup Series race set for Sunday. IndyCar and Indy Next, as well as most of the road to Indy, is going to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But on the road course this weekend, we've got the Soncio Grand Prix coming up. I will be there, so be sure to follow rpeters33 on Twitter, because I will be there posting up-to-date news and anything that happens, news, notes, identity, whatever's going on, I'll be there to provide all that information. So make sure to follow me there. But also this weekend, we've got on Saturday the WEC 6 Hours of Spa. That is coming up this weekend. That's going to be on HBO Max beginning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The MotoGP French Grand Prix at the Bugatti Circuit in Le Mans. It is the actual Le Mans, but it's not the Circuit de la Sarthe. It's a little Bugatti circuit. That's going to be 7 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. I believe that's going to be on FS2. The Cars Tour is in action this weekend as well. They're going to be at Ace Speedway at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday. That race, of course, is going to be streaming on Flow Racing. Meanwhile, the World of Outlaws sprint cars are going to be at Williams Grove Speedway this Friday and Saturday. So again, no shortage of big name races, grassroots races, whatever you're looking for. I believe there's even some British touring car races this weekend. Those, I believe, are on Racer Network if you're interested in watching some of those. But like I said, I love racing. You probably love racing if you're watching this. So let's all enjoy all the racing that's going on this weekend. So that is it for this week's episode of the Racing Report. Thank you again so much for watching and tuning in. We really appreciate all that support. And remember, if you do like this show, like I said, follow me on Twitter at rpeters33. That's RPEETERS33. And then make sure to have that WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV so you don't miss a single episode of the Racing Report each and every week. So, for WTHR Plus, my name is Rob Peeters. This has been another episode of the Racing Report.